Cold open question, Brendon Kleen, to start this edition of the Just Basketball Show. Luka Doncic gifted his entire team Mercedes e-bikes for Christmas. Doing some reading about these could retail for as much as $7,500 a pop. Also, just very European of him to say, I'm not going to give you a watch. I'm going to give you like a way to not use your car, which Luka Doncic, welcome to the war on cars. But Brendon Kleen, if you had Luka Doncic money and you were going to give your teammates or coworkers a gift that you could just afford whatever, also probably had some kind of corporate connection to in some way, I'm sure, on the back end, what would your gift be?
I thought about some sort of property, and I think that's a little too pricey. I don't.
Yeah,
think...
what do you get everyone like a nice acre? Like, what's the deal? Like, you buy them like a ranch in Montana?
Yeah, no, exactly. So I realize that's impractical for the number of people that we're talking about here, even in an NBA organization, which is smaller than the NFL. So what I came down on is a trip, a vacation. I would take my teammates somewhere, maybe not even a full 2 weeks somewhere, but hey, we're playing the Warriors on the road. Let's go to Napa for the day before, and everything's on me. Let's go taste some wine, or let's go out on the water on some coastal city that we're visiting during the course of the season, or do a training camp, mini camp thing with teammates, and the yacht rental and all the food and drinks are on me, guys. That feels personal. I actually heard Jason Kidd, because this gift came in for Christmas, of course, and the Mavs were in Phoenix that day, and he was being asked if he had used the gift, and it low-key did not seem like he planned to, which is always the risk you run when you just give somebody something that they did not ask for. So a trip, it's like people can just enjoy it at their leisure. That's where I would land.
I am buying them a ticket to something they want to go to. This is my answer. So, if I'm on the Indiana Pacers, for instance, and I know Tyrese Haliburton, who probably gets the plugs anyway, maybe doesn't matter, but I'm going to get him some kind of sick WWE ticket to let him just go be a nerd. Every time we see a video of Tyrese Haliburton interacting with someone from the WWE, the most recent one being Booker T, you can just tell that guy's an absolute nerd. But if someone's like, hey, I'm really into Zach Bryan, or hey, I want to go to the New York City Film Festival because I'm a big film guy, I'm paying for their ticket, and I'm going to buy them a meal because I probably have the money to also do that.
Those two things are exactly what NBA players want to go to, Chris. You nailed it.
I mean, the WWE one for sure. Jimmy Butler also definitely.
Although I think
Zach
Tyrese
Bryan
Haliburton would be the person giving. He's the star.
That's true.
So, I just feel bad for the assistant who's having to take stock of all these picks. Who's walking around the facility taking notes on.
Yeah.
What did you want to go to? What did you...
Well, and it's you got to keep track of the two-way guy that you maybe haven't seen in a month because they've been at the G League showcase, and it's hey, I don't know you, but I'm gonna spend. That's why I kind of understand how you end up just being what if I give you a nice watch, or in Luka's case, a $7,500 e-bike. I kind of get how you end up there.
It's the go-to. Makes sense for a reason.
Yeah, e-bike's the new go-to. All right, coming up on today's show, we're going to look back at 2023. We're going to make some look-ahead predictions for 2024. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Just Basketball Show for December 29th, our last episode of the calendar year. I'm Chris Manning. That is Brendon Kleen. If you haven't already, please subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. 5-star reviews only. And want to tell you about our friends at Thrive Fantasy. Thrive Fantasy is a player prop DFS platform where you can pick more or less than on your favorite players across multiple sports, including the NBA and the NFL. Sign up today with code JUSTBASKETBALL, and Thrive will match your first deposit up to $250. We're going to get to 2023 superlatives, 2024 look ahead, all that stuff. But, Brendon, it's slop season. We're about a month away from the trade deadline. So do you want to talk us through some of the slop we've got about Pascal Siakam right now?
Well, I'll let you pick. Are we doing Toronto or are we doing Detroit slop?
The Pistons thing will come up later because I have the Pistons as an answer for one of our superlatives. So I will organically bring that up in another way. So let's do the Siakam one. Let's do this Raptors stuff.
I think it can be kind of quick because we've all seen this coming. This is from Michael Grange over at Sportsnet, who reported that the Raptors are obviously able to sign Pascal Siakam to an extension right now, up to 4 years, $192 million. There's a chance that he could be eligible for more than that in the offseason, but I think, all NBA for him is not in the cards here. So somewhere in that range. But they are not close on an agreement like that. They seem to not have even talked much at all. They want it to be, the team wants it to be fewer years. And so what that is setting up is the Raptors, who want to continue to play hardball, as always, in the trade market, with a player who doesn't appear to be part of their future just because of his age for the most part, is not on a long-term contract, could walk in the offseason, and nobody wants to trade for that. So they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by not getting this extension done, not accepting a reasonable trade, and it feels like this is headed towards some kind of bad situation for Toronto because for about 18 months now, they kind of seem like they've refused to confront the reality of this roster and bought instead of sold at last year's deadline, and now they're in this pile of junk. So where do you think this heads, Chris? What extension, trade, neither, both? There's all sorts of different options here. What do you think happens?
I'm going to just say I think free agency, because I don't know why Toronto would really want to give him an extension right now. There's still a lot of season left. There's a lot to figure out. He's good, but is he all NBA? Probably not. I don't think he's quite at that level. He's at an age where his next contract isn't like a guarantee to be perfect and aged perfectly well. So I think you'd want to see out the rest of the year, get more data on how he fits with Scotty and all that stuff. See what happens with OG as well. And you're probably just not getting the value that you'd want, I think, on the market, in particular, I think where trades seem to be going. And you have Woj out here saying it's going to be a quiet deadline. So I don't know how much teams are going to be willing to throw stuff in and out. I would suspect you go to free agency, and then we see if there can be a sign and trade, see if he just leaves. And that's not a great outcome for them. They're not going to get, I think, this isn't going out exactly how they've wanted to, but I don't see a world where it really makes sense for anyone to commit in every way. And again, because all the reporting about Siakam, too, and you hit on this, is just he's signaled this whole time if he gets traded somewhere, he's not signing an extension. So, like, why, unless that has changed, unless there's a team that can back channel with his camp and kind of wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, but that's to put pressure on Toronto to extend him or sign him to a deal that's more lucrative, right? Obviously, he's not going to go to the G League. He's not going to go to France. So he would sign with somebody. If you're saying he would leave in free agency, then he might extend with a team that trades for him. It's not like he's going to, say no to everybody.
Yeah, but I think... Right, but I think it's also like there's probably certain teams he doesn't want to re-sign to that might be the teams that could give Toronto more of what they want or be willing to overpay to Toronto. Like, it's his version of leverage in this situation is kind of how I read it.
Yeah, I guess what he wants is unclear. If they're not going to give him the max amount of money that they can, then whatever he wants kind of seems to die there, right? If give me the most money I can by keeping me and paying me, if that option is off the table, which I think that feels pretty clear now, that version that he wanted is done, then maybe his willingness to go elsewhere alleviates and he's a little bit more ready to play ball on a move. And then the ball kind of goes into their court a little bit. And I think you said it's not in anybody's best interest to move now or whatever. It's in their best interest to move now if the alternative is losing him for nothing. Right? So
what is the
kind of domino effect is that they should trade him.
What do you think he is actually worth? Like to a team that would go, like, what do you think you would actually want to give up for Siakam right now? With the contract stuff kind of hanging over you a little bit with him.
The comparison that I think you would make is maybe, and they're very different players, they're very different situations, but just from the standpoint of needing to pay him, as you just said, and roughly the same sort of caliber of player even if their skill sets have different values because they play different positions. It's Kyrie Irving. That's kind of the comparison point that I would make on the trade market. One future unprotected first-round pick, maybe 2 protected picks, kind of in that range, and then some salary, but not useless salary, right? I mean, that was Dinwiddie and Finney-Smith. That's stuff that Brooklyn could flip. That's players who are helping them right now. So you're talking about competent players plus at least 1 good draft pick. To me, that's sort of what I would expect a Siakam trade to look like. Does that feel reasonable?
I think it does. I think the question is sort of, to me, then, like, how do you match the teams? Because, like, Atlanta's been a team we've kind of talked about as maybe having interest. Why would Atlanta be a
I don't
buyer
think they're
right now?
interested anymore. They're bad. Yeah.
They've absolutely slidden, and the trade to hear with them is that the Lakers are eyeing DeJounte Murray, which is very clutch of the Los Angeles Lakers who have interest in DeJounte Murray. So, like, then you're just matching. It's like, okay, where are you putting Siakam? Where's the Siakam trade that makes sense? Is it Indiana maybe? I don't know. Is that a market he wants to stay in? And then I don't think there's really another team in the East that totally could make a trade for Siakam. Like, maybe you could tell me, like, the Knicks want to just swap out, like, Randall for Siakam, but what is that doing for Toronto? Not like they should not be taking Julius Randle's contract back. You go to the West. We've talked about the Kings. I still would like that one. You could maybe convince me the Thunder if you wanted to just get really weird and make a talent play for them. But even there, it's like, I don't know how many teams should be super aggressively trying to buy on Pascal Siakam right now, based on what the price would be, based on what their roster is. The needle to thread on Siakam trades, I think, is really, frankly, tricky. If you're going to get the most out of a return, and also who should be aggressive in trying to take on some uncertainty and do it.
And he makes $38 million, so it's not exactly an easy trade to make just from a counting it up standpoint salary-wise. So I've mentioned Dallas a lot of times. I think he fits some of what they want to do in terms of switching on defense, being isolation, post, mismatch hunting, heavy type of offense. He can do some of that, but salary-wise, it would have to include Tim Hardaway, and you're looking at Rashawn Holmes, Maxi Kleba. Again, is Toronto doing that? So on court, he is a unique fit. He doesn't fit everywhere. He's older. You have to pay him. That's why I started the way that I did, Chris. Like, they screwed this up last year's deadline, maybe before that. The writing has been on the wall that they were headed here, and I think the best thing to do now is canvass the league, take whatever trade you can get, and move on to the next era of your team, because if you wait any longer, it's not gonna get better. And you risk losing him for nothing, and you don't really get any sort of salary relief or anything that much because you have Pirtle and a Barnes extension coming and an OG and an Obi current salary and next salary and all these other deals. So they got to just take whatever they can get at this point, I think.
You're probably right. Curious to see if they actually do it. It's been one of the more, I think stubborn is a good way to decipher like what Toronto has been the last couple of years as far as making actual moves to transition. It's been a very rigid approach, I think, to what's going on there. And maybe this is the wacky trade. Maybe there's just some team that shouldn't do it that does it anyway, and we'll get some banter about that. That could very well be the case. Long way. It's close, and yet it is so far away to the deadline. We're like a month, and yet it feels like there's a lot that's going to happen between now and then that's going to dictate some things.
Yep, and that's why I don't believe Woj that it's going to be a quiet deadline, because it never really is, and we always kind of hear that in December, and then especially in this play-in era, there's teams that say, you know what, we're not really going to be good this year, let's sell. Or some random team like Toronto last year who surprises us and ends up being a buyer. It's just, we're not there yet, but we'll get there soon.
Yeah, maybe Atlanta figures it out and we're rehashing this in a different way, but I'd be doubtful of that. All right, let's go into our year in review. So we're going to start with 2023, the year we are still currently in, and we're going to do some superlatives. Here are the categories. 2023 Men's Player of the Year, 2023 Women's Player of the Year, 2023 Basketball Person of the Year. I'm curious to see how we interpret that. I have an answer that I think I'll have some fun with. The single basketball moment from the year 2023 we'll remember more than any other. The 2023 You Exceeded My Expectations surprise of the year. 2023 Disappointment of the year, 2023 Story of the year, and 2023 Funniest Moment. And we'll hit on a little bit how did basketball change in 2023, I think, throughout these, but that is a thing we can get to as well. Brendon, 2023 Men's Player of the Year for me, it's Nikola Jokic. I think this is the slam dunk answer. He won the NBA. He's won his first title. I think is widely viewed, or at least among many, considered the best player in the league right now. He got his crowning moment in June. Last NBA season was about him. He holds that crown to me right now. I think it's Nikola Jokic. I don't think there's another answer I would feel good about giving.
Nope, he was my answer as well. To me, Jokic, it was his year, but it was also, it felt like a climb to the summit. It was like a sigh of relief of a career moment, right? Because he had such a strange rise. One, to have it happen during COVID when seasons are crazy, arenas are empty. He was probably the guy who, during the pandemic, saw his stock rise the most. But on top of that, his best teammates are hurt. There's all this other stuff going on. And the team underperforms, although obviously not really, but compared to a healthy version of their team, they underperform. And finally, he reaches the mountaintop in 2023 in dominant fashion. That team lost, 4? They were 16-4 on their way to a title, and got some answers, figured it out enough on defense, and felt like an absolute unstoppable machine on the offensive end, and has people feeling now like even after a relatively pedestrian start to 2023, this season we're in now, that they're still the favorites. Like they not only answered any questions, but they rose to a level, and so did he, that makes them kind of undeniable now. Like that kind of perception shift is what's crazy to me. I mean, this is somebody that even really prominent NBA voices in the media and elsewhere were sort of reticent about. And now he has a unanimous approval rating. Like, nobody doubts this dude anymore. Shaquille O'Neal and Charles Barkley, on the biggest NBA platform there is, are absolutely fucking in love with this guy. You know what I mean? Kendrick Perkins is out here defending the dude constantly after making last year's MVP thing about race and getting us all off track about his greatness.
Yeah.
This guy just sort of answered every single question, and now it's like, yeah, Nikola Jokic. Like, you and I didn't even have to think for 3 seconds on this one.
He is also, some of what you're hitting at is also just proof that rings culture is just like alive and well, because once you win one, you kind of you become bulletproof to some degree. Like,
yeah, but it was also like he didn't have any playoff success until last year. You could say rings culture, but he didn't even have playoff moments.
Yeah,
it's not
and
like
it wasn't
he
even
got
really...
to a Game 7 of the conference finals and we were all like, do it in the finals, dude. Get your ring, man. He had nothing, and then he just answered all those things in one fell swoop.
And I think as a human, you also just see how this guy is. It's refreshing to me how he is wired, because he is not like the many disciples of the late great Kobe Bryant, or even like a LeBron disciple that is like, he's just like, this is my job. I'm really good at it. I'm going to go home and like watch my horses with Aaron Gordon, and I'm going to have the best summer of my life and just have a great time and enjoy it. But this isn't the only thing that defines me. Like, he is such
I wrote
a
about this
refreshing
today.
modern guy in the way. Yeah.
At Awful Announcing, because he did an interview with Michael Porter Jr. On MPJ has a podcast. I don't know if anybody knew that, but he does.
I did know has a podcast, and that is like one of the considering. I'm not going to say explicitly why, because you people know about MPJ, I guess, but one of the funniest players who just like have a podcast, because I'm surprised nothing has like gone wrong there yet, if I'm being honest.
I just don't think it's very big, so people don't pay much attention to it. But
yeah.
Jokic said Being famous, some people like it, some people don't. When I finish my career, I really wish nobody knows me. I wish my kid or kids in the future remember me as a dad. That's going to be my goal in life. He said, I really don't like this life because at the end of the day, we're just basketball players. We're just good at what we are doing. And he said it feels sad to go out in public and people are just obsessed with pointing their phones at him and all this stuff. And then when he retires, he wants to not even own a phone. So I think we got to know this guy too this year. And it was kind of maybe surprising to some of us what that looked like, but I appreciate the honesty and getting to kind of peek behind the curtain, because to have that mentality but still be so driven to be the best at basketball that you can, I think that kind of like bears a little bit more consideration when we think about kind of sports and everything else of just, wow, that guy still is that good. Why? You know, you don't have to be a fanatic fiend to be great. You can do it that way too. That's kind of cool to me.
Minus odds, you think that Nikola Jokic no-shows the NBA 100?
I was thinking about this. I mean, I believe I think he signed a contract, was it in 2022? So he has 4 years left on his contract after this. I think he's like 29 right now. It would not surprise me if he just retired after that contract at like 33, 34. It feels like that's the kind of thing we should be prepared for.
LeBron's still playing and Jokic is just out.
Crazier things have happened. I really do think anything's on the table with him. But yeah, he is without a doubt the men's player of the year this year. I don't think there's another answer.
All right, let's go to women's player of the year. I'm going to go A'ja Wilson, Brendon, because serial winner, leading the Las Vegas Aces, is doing historic things as a winner of the WNBA. I think is the face of that league in a lot of ways. Also just another great personality. She had an Instagram post up that went up Thursday where it's just a lot of behind the scenes stuff. She doesn't take herself at all too seriously. She enjoys who she is and what she is about. Also, just at the last slide is all these people from ESPN like picking the Liberty to win the series and her just laughing at it because she's just like, yeah, you're not beating me. That is a dominant player ahead of the best organization, the best team in the WNBA right now. There is a certain player in Iowa that I think is also a very reasonable pick here considering the hype, but we're talking winning. We're talking what she's accomplished, how good she is, her being in just the beginning of her prime, I would say. For me, I'm going A'ja Wilson, Las Vegas Aces.
Yeah, she's my answer too. I think she's
2 for
everything
2.
you would want. Yeah, well, we picked the Finals MVP of both leagues. It's not exactly crazy.
But like,
sometimes somebody's just deserving.
But I like Brendon. I honestly, part of the reason I picked A'ja because I just feel like Brendon is going to pick Caitlin Clark because there's a very easy thing to do and talk about Caitlin Clark and what she means for the future of the game, and that would have been a very reasonable pick. That's like the other option. It's not like Jokic where I think there's like one pick. I think either of those would have been very valid picks.
Yeah, and I did consider Caitlin Clark. She'll come up later for me, so I kind of wanted to spread it out. And I think A'ja is continually overlooked in a way that I didn't want to do here. She's everything you would want to build a league around. She's everything you would want as the face of a professional sports league. Flat out, no caveats, no commas with more words after that. She is what you want. And her Game 4 moment with multiple injuries, and Kelsey Plum playing 40 minutes, she played 39. You had Sydney Colson and Kayla George stepping in what was supposed to be a no-brainer 5-game series, a clash of super teams, and A'ja put them on her back with 24 and 16, 11 of 21 from the field, and just said, we're winning this championship tonight on the road, and I don't give a shit what anyone else has to say about it. Like, that is stone cold shit, and she did that, and she is now a back-to-back champion, which is very rare in that league, and everything is on the table for her. She should be more famous. She should have a shoe. All that stuff should be coming. I hope it does soon. I hope she is on NBA 2K and all the silly stuff that we do with famous athletes that means something because we made it mean something. Give it all to her, because I think this year proved that she deserves it.
100%. She is having a run that is going to go down just straight up in history. There's no way around it. There's no way to deny it. There's no way to say that she's not minting herself among the greatest to ever do it in that sport. She's not only beating legends, but she's establishing her own legacy right in front of her eyes. That's
yeah. And meanwhile, heading into 2024, South Carolina looks like a pretty clear favorite to win the NCAA title, and I think that is something that as time continues, she will be looked at as something of, I don't know what kind of comparison points there might be because we don't know how great South Carolina will ultimately end up being dynasty-wise, but her planting the seeds for what that has become with the Gamecocks is huge too. Like it feels like we're in the middle of it, but I honestly think it's kind of just the beginning with Asia. Even though she's been around for about 5 years now, she's just hitting her prime. Like this is somebody who we're going to keep talking about for a decade, I think.
Yeah, she's 27. She won't turn 28 until sometime next season. I mean, there's so much runway left for her to keep growing and getting bigger and earning what she's capable of earning. And like honestly, Brendon, we're a ways away. Probably just going to pick the Aces to like repeat next year. I know history suggests that that's like not the likeliest thing, but I think I'm just going to do it.
Why would we not?
Yeah. Why would we not at this point? All right.
What did you have for basketball person of the year? Because I didn't really have a different answer here. So
okay.
I'm going to need you to clarify it for us.
So I answered someone who brought me joy. This is why I put this on there, and I wanted us just to figure it out. I picked Tyrese Halliburton, Brendon, because I don't think there's a single player I've watched play basketball this year that I've had more fun watching that has brought me more joy in the way Tyrese Halliburton plays basketball, what he has done for the Pacers, what he is doing for his position, the way he's ascending. I don't think I just wanted to answer this by saying that's how I looked at this. And I think you could have picked LeBron for this. You could pick Jokic for this. You could pick Asia Wilson for this. You could pick Caitlin Clark. You could pick Becky Hammond. You could pick Pat Riley for getting another team as an executive to the finals. Whatever you want to do. I just went with the person who brought me the most joy and what I love about watching basketball right now. And to me, it's Tyrese Halliburton is the encapsulation of that.
That's fair. That's a good one. I thought of somebody that wasn't a player. That's kind of where I tried to take it, and I just didn't have. I was like, I could do Adam Silver, and that's boring.
That's
who
also
I thought of, though?
Not a good answer.
No, it's not a good answer. I thought of Dan Hurley.
Yeah, that'd be a great one.
Because it's sort of a lifetime achievement thing, right? This is somebody who has been all up and down the basketball landscape. His last name is kind of royalty. And not only did he kind of like Jokic coronate himself with the championship that he won with the UConn men's team, but kind of feels like they're on the cusp of potentially a pretty dominant streak. Donovan Clingan looks like he's going to be a top 10 pick. They're churning out, pros again, and they look like as good of a shot as any team to win the title in 2024. So he was the one who came to mind if I had to pick a non-player that 2023 was sort of about, but also nobody paid attention to that tournament, and men's college basketball kind of sucks. So I didn't pick him for that reason, but he's definitely deserving. If we still cared about that sport the way we used to, he would have gotten significantly more attention, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. So who is your actual pick?
Yeah, I'll go with him. No, I didn't really have a great answer. My answer would be Jokic. I mean, if I'm being honest, but if we're saying kind of non-player or I'm trying to think outside the box, I'll go Dan Hurley. That'll be my answer.
All right, I like that answer. All right, a single moment from 2023 that you remember more than any other, Brendon. I'm going to give you two, and I'm going to give you one that I watched at my home, and then one that I saw in person. At home, it's LeBron James setting the scoring record and passing Kareem. Don't care that they lost that game. That is one of the coolest things that we will never see again in our lifetimes, is someone breaking a record like that and getting the ovation and stopping a game like that for a record. That is never going to happen again. This is a one-of-one moment, and I watch it every once in a while just to feel a little something. Just to get a little emotional about LeBron James and how time passes us by.
We're men. What can we say? It is what it is.
Michael Mann could make a movie about dudes just watching sport moments, and I would be like, hell yeah, Michael Mann, let's go. All right. For me, the in-person one, Donovan Mitchell scoring 73 points. Or 71 points, whatever it was.
71.
April 4th. a performance that was just pure motor, that was pure just like, I have to do this because my team is not winning this game unless I do this. And the arena buying in, the emotion around it, the post-game stuff. It's the last time I remember talking to Kevin Love in a presser after a game before he left, too, because Mitchell talked first, obviously. It went JB, then Mitchell, then Kevin Love. And I love that they brought out Kevin Love because it was like, let's get the elder statesman who's seen it all, who's played all, who's done all this stuff, and let's let him just like talk about being around this. And you could see how much it like impressed Kevin, who's seen everything and played with LeBron, what a championship, all this stuff. And for me, that whole game being in that arena, when you cover games, there are a lot of nights where you don't think you're going to get anything special, and you kind of know you're going to get a dud, and you're just like, okay, like everyone's just like, I'd like to get home. That's one of those nights that I can still like feel what it was like in the arena that night, feel the energy, feel the emotion, and it's why you go to the arena. It's why like this is such a cool thing to get to do as part of my career, is to go to a game, because you get to see Donovan Mitchell do that, and even if there was a lane violation on the one offensive rebound and stuff, just the motor for him to pull that off was unbelievable, and the buy-in and the tension it creates is just, there's nothing like really being in an arena when someone is absolutely cooking with gas like that. So for me, it's LeBron at home, but it's Donovan Mitchell 71, seeing that in person. And
it's the way the crowd gets into it on a night like that. Like it's like a no-hitter or a perfect game in baseball when a basketball player kind of gets to, he's going to get 50. He's going to get, I mean, I've never seen anything better than a 50-point game. But honestly, the past two have been road teams for the Suns, so we'll get away from that. Yeah, but yeah, it ratchets up.
Every time like you see another marker and people are reacting, it just like it ratchets it up. And how far can this go? Where is he going to take this?
Yeah. Every attempt is a roar. Forget if it's even going to go in or not. It's just the fact that he's shooting is holy shit. Yeah, it's great. I'll answer it the same way as you did. I'll do one in person, one from home. LeBron passing, that is certainly on the list. I probably just have more than like a handful, so I'll dip into my list a little deeper. One from home, the Spurs winning the lottery.
Oh, okay. I like this.
Honestly, for basketball person of the year, I really thought of Vic too. I thought of having it be him.
You could have done it, or you could have done Chet as a troll, and I would have been like, hell yeah, let's go.
But I'll do it here. Spurs winning the lottery. I mean, it just felt, I think we recorded that night, it felt kind of preordained, right? It just felt like, and as a Suns, longtime Suns follower into my childhood when the Spurs were the villains of my nightmares, and it was just like, this is all happening again, and I hate the sport of basketball, but also it kind of just felt so serendipitous that it was, the Diaw, the Parker, the worldly organization that they built over there, that Vic would end up in a spot like that. Just kind of everything came together, and then it was, wow, what does this mean for Pop? And I just, that moment definitely will stick with me, especially because we're going to continue to watch that guy rise. But in person, this is not even hard. It was being at Brittany Griner's first game back in the WNBA after her imprisonment. The Mercury nailed every single aspect of that day. The fans showed up in a massive way. I don't usually linger down on the court during pregame stuff because we're technically allowed to as media, but you're just running the risk of somebody barking at you or getting in somebody's way. I definitely did in this case. I was sitting next to the Mercury team president, her agent, and all the comms people, and her wife, and getting to see their reactions, hearing the fan reaction from the floor while there's this whole poem thing and dance number, and she gets announced. She walks down the concourse. They do the anthem. They do the intros. She wins the opening tip, and away we go. It was like surreal in a whole assortment of ways, something that I hope I never experience again because holy shit. And yeah, I mean, especially just having covered her, it wasn't just some random person. It was like the star of the WNBA team that I've covered. It was wild, very emotional day, but that one will certainly stay with me.
I think that's a great one. There's so many other things I think you could pick from this year. It's been a really incredible year for basketball moments. I mean, it always, I think, delivers at the end of the day. But I mean, we could pick stuff from the finals with Jokic and been like, yeah, or the parade. I mean, I think I thought for another topic I thought about Jokic saying he wasn't going to go to the parade and then like not being excited about it because he's mad about his horse. And then 2 days later, it's like turned up beyond all belief, like hanging out at this parade. Like, you know, there's so many things you could pick. I'm gonna the day that I like no longer get to regularly be in the arena is like there's gonna be a pang of anxiety for me, Brendon, where I worry I'm gonna miss something cool. And what you're describing is it like for me personally, this isn't like a great like answer as far as the big picture, but for me personally, being there when LeBron played his one game right after Thanksgiving in Cleveland this year, I got there early enough and was with a dear friend of mine who covers the team. Danny Cunningham, and we were walking and watched LeBron do his warm up, and just like I have a photo on my phone of me like 3 feet from LeBron, and it's like of like LeBron like 3 feet away, and just like him talking shit to Tristan Thompson before the game, and it's like, man, this is so cool. Like this is just really cool that this is part of like my life, and just getting to like see them in a more interaction, you know. And yours is like 10 times cooler than that because yours is like
I was gonna say another one to your point. I mean, KD. Yeah. His intro press conference, they basically sold out the fucking Suns arena for an intro like meet and greet event.
Another way NBA is becoming soccer is just like having fans show up for these like things like they do in Spain more than anywhere else, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's been a great year. I think 2024 will be awesome too. But where do we want to go next?
Let's go to story of the year because I don't want to like I want to cluster all the bummers like kind of together.
Okay.
And it's going to feel, I guess it's, you know, let's just go to disappointment because I think I want to end on story of the year because I want to maybe like not end on like a negative. My disappointment is the Detroit Pistons because, and this is maybe recency bias, but come on guys, you lost 27 games in a row. We're recording this before they played the Celtics. They were like 17.5-point underdogs in that game. They beat the Celtics. We'll be very surprised. That team is an embarrassment. That team is a joke. They're well beyond saving in a lot of ways. It feels like it's going to take a lot of time. They have young talent I like. They have a coach that I think is respected among the league, and yet they're a disaster. And, you know, now you get the reporting out there from Shams that like they might be interested in making like a aggressive move for a four-man, and the names are like OG Anunoby and Siakam and like Miles Bridges is in there, which is gross in its own right in a lot of different ways. And it's like, what are we doing here? What do you have to trade? A and number two, like, why are you doing this? Like, what are you solving by like trying to make this kind of trade? This is just like the worst situation in the league now, and the loss have mounted up. And this is just worse than I could. I didn't think they were going to be good, but we did a preview with Khalil about this, and we thought they might be a little friskier than this and just like a little improved. And I don't think we're overly negative about this team. And now I'm just like, what is going on here? What is happening with the Detroit Pistons?
To look at the 2023 calendar year, too, I believe I have this correct. They were the team with the best odds in the Vic lottery, right? They fell to...
I'm going to double check.
No, they couldn't have been the team with the best because they fell to 5. So, but they fell. They definitely fell in that lottery.
Pistons, Rockets, Spurs had 14%, Hornets 12.5%, Trailblazers 10.5%.
Okay. So that's even worse, right? So yeah, I think that's a perfectly solid answer. That is probably what we will remember the most about this year is their failure. Just even though it kind of came at the tail end, they pretty much owned the failure from October to December. So they really just seized that moment and took over the year. I will put the Charlotte Hornets there just for any number of things, whether it is the draft and picking a questionable player who I think has actually panned out a little better than expected, but then not being able to really answer for why basketball-wise or off-court-wise they were comfortable with that pick. Mm-hmm. This team was sold. Michael Jordan is gone, I think, for the league. That sucks. LaMelo Ball can't stay healthy. They seem very aimless. And then to top all of that off, they are being cowards about handling the Miles Bridges situation in the way that their fans want, I think, for the most part, and that, any moral person would try to do. Now, they're not unique in that way in sports. I'm not trying to be naive and pile on for something that probably a ton of other organizations would do, but hey, you had a chance to do it differently and you did not. So to me, the Hornets just shat the bed the most in 2023 in the NBA.
The Miles Bridges thing alone makes them candidates for this category. The way they handle that is just reprehensible. And
although the NBA could be the disappointment of the year for the Miles Bridges situation too, pretending like time that he's sat out dealing with legal troubles counted as part of a suspension is an absolute joke. So nobody won that situation. Everybody disappointed.
A lot of Adam Silver's decisions this year to me have been bummers. He just is. There's something just a little. I don't quite understand him at times, if I'm being honest.
I'm gonna leave that. We'll talk Silver a different day. We'll do a Silver pod in the future, Chris. We'll really deep dive on put our commissioners' hats on, I guess.
I would not like that. Sounds really, really. I would be like,
okay. Well, then
this is how much money you should take from the Qatari government. Is not probably a good podcast.
No,
episode.
let him solve his own problems. We'll watch the games.
When we get a big foreign investment into a team that's bigger than the Wizards, then maybe we'll have to talk about it. But we'll cross that Rubicon when we hit that Rubicon, Brendon. All right, 2023, you exceeded my expectations. Person/surprise of the year. Who's your answer for this?
Jimmy Butler.
Oh, okay. I like this. This is a little tongue in cheeky. I feel because it's just maybe we should stop being surprised by Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, that's fair. He's done this before, but I think specifically because he was a part of what I was thinking about with the moment I would remember, which is was a game 2 against the Bucks, the inbounds play against Drew Holiday. He just systematically pressed the reset button on everything about the Milwaukee Bucks, and then, got his play-in team within arm's reach of another NBA title. And yeah, maybe that shouldn't be surprising anymore, but he overcame even more to do it this time. Tyler Hero, Victor Oladipo both hurt, a bad regular season, being down in the fourth quarter of the play-in game. And Jimmy just kind of brushed all of that off and said, I got this. And he got this, and he proved that. So he is my exceeded expectations /surprise man of the year.
I like this answer. Mine is the Minnesota Timberwolves franchise. Because lo and behold, I feel like they're in a really good position now, and I don't know if I would have thought that 6 months ago. They're a bona fide really good team in the East. And it's not like it is the Thunder where it's you could have predicted that there was something coming. Maybe the Thunder to some degree that they're on the winning pace they are and has scheduled in some way, and how good Chet is something of a surprise. And but I think our expectations on the show, Brendon, were pretty high. I think they were there. But the Wolves, to your credit, you were ahead on maybe the Towns Gobert thing is actually the Gobert trade in itself is actually probably okay ultimately. It is what it is. Defense is really good. That's not the case if Rudy Gobert is not on this basketball team. Also in the news that the ownership situation is continuing to evolve and the Laurie A-Rod group is gonna get up to 80%. Maybe there's more money coming to be spent on this team, and there certainly is a financial apocalypse, or apocalypse is strong, but a tough situation coming for them. Still, I think that's unavoidable. But this franchise feels like it's in a great place. They have a star player. They have a lot of room to grow just based on that and Jaden and everything else they have. A good coach in Chris Finch. I didn't think coming into this year that the Wolves were necessarily in a great spot, and now I feel like they are. So I come away looking back at this year as a year of progress for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Great answer. My 2023 story of the year. Are we doing that last? Should we do funniest moment now?
Let's do funniest moments because I have 3. I have 3 for this because I just want to. I couldn't pick.
Okay, give it to me.
All right, number 1. Anytime Jordan Poole is on my Twitter feed this year is the funniest moment. Whether it's him saying it's fine in the huddle and then having to look back at the play, whether it's him taking the 3. whether it's the misguided pull-up attempt, everything that guy does is just the most unserious thing I've seen a professional basketball player do. So just Jordan Poole is my answer. The alley-oop to Kuz when you're down 20, hilarious. Number 2.
He's making a mockery of the Wizards who deserve it, so I'm all in favor of supporting his efforts.
Yeah, and look, he's getting the bag. Also, just like this is also the year where like he rumoredly spent like a ton of money in a day with Ice Spice, and I just like there's just a lot going on in that man's life. Number 2, Austin Carr's Twitter account. If people are not aware, Austin Carr, Cavs legend, broadcaster for Bally Sports in Cleveland, has truly just one of the most like pure Twitter accounts that exists. And I don't really even mean to poke fun at this in like a mean way. It just like his Twitter account makes me laugh because he's an elderly guy who just tweets whatever is going through his mind, even if he's on the broadcast. Last night, for instance, as we're recording this on Thursday, the Cavs had this massive comeback to beat Dallas. This is Austin Carr's tweet. Cavs get it done in the second half, defense, defense. Man, no periods here, no real punctuation. Man, it was on point in that second half. Wow, in all caps. Huge win for the Cavs on the road. Period, but no space. Good night, not one word, 2. And stay safe. Wow, in all caps, how he ends his tweets. And every game, every time he's tweeting before the game, it's like go Cavs. It's just like Austin Carr's vibe of his brain is just out there. He is the only
Twitter. Yeah,
it is the only good Twitter account in my opinion. It's like the only one that makes me smile anymore. And number 3, the time the Nuggets announcers, I think it was, referred to DeAndre Jordan as DeAndre Ayton.
That's a forgotten gem. I'm sure they appreciate you bringing that back up.
The way that everyone in that huddle reacted was just like they were baffled by it, and I'd forgotten about it until I like went on YouTube and was like looking for it to see if I'd missed anything. And that one came up, and I was like, damn, I forgot about the fact that this happened, which is just like a wild thing to have gotten wrong. So that's my 3. My real answer is Jordan Poole, just the existence of Jordan Poole. But Austin Carr, I love his Twitter account so much, so that has to be there.
So mine I will move along with quickly because it's already been brought up. It was the entire reaction by Nikola Jokic to the concept of the championship parade.
Oh, yeah, all-timer.
When is parade should just be tattooed on, I don't know, somebody.
I hope chest. I hope there's a Nuggets fan that got like absolutely drunk off like a local craft beer, maybe at our friends at DNVR, at Amara's DNVR bar, and like got that tattoo because on their calf or something because their buddy was like, man, it'll be a great tattoo. When is parade? And you get that on your calf, man. I hope someone did that. That would be great. That'd be a great dude's rock story, in my opinion. Yeah.
And then he enjoyed himself at the parade like we knew he would. So very good stuff. But yeah, that's my answer.
That's what a guy. Honestly, any of the stuff from him in the summer are also up there. Just like him like singing Serbian music in a restaurant on a table with Aaron Gordon at the races, you know?
And now you just know that he was actually low-key depressed that people were filming that. So there you go.
Yeah, which is maybe makes it less funny. All right. Story of the year for me, Brendon, is the Dallas Mavericks sale. I think this just portends something really big for the NBA. I think this is not going to be the last time we see an owner of that stature. Maybe, obviously not the public face that Mark Cuban is, because I don't think anyone is more of a public-facing owner than him, except maybe like Jeannie Buss. Like, there's no one else really kind of out there in the way Mark Cuban is. But I don't think this is the last.
She's a good example of somebody who might be a candidate, you know, like
yeah.
Our family's wealth is this team type of person. Hey, how's $8 billion sound? Courtesy of oil money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever it ends up being. I think this is not the last time we are going to see partnerships and ownership where as the money grows bigger, you're going to see really established teams take a big investment to continue building these franchises and build infrastructure. And I was also just, this just got approved. I was also just like left more confused by Cuban's comments. You know, I don't know. Like, it was all this reporting that he was going to have full control, but then the new owner is going to have final say. And like, so I just don't understand like what exactly is going on there. There's still a lot more to understand there, but I do not think this is the last time we are going to see a well-established owner make a ton of money, but still stay involved with the team in some way, and maybe still be the figurehead owner. It's another soccer parallel. We're seeing this with Manchester United right now. with Sergio Ratcliffe and his group is buying into the Glazers. The Glazers are like remaining overall control so they can keep making money, but Jim Ratcliffe gets to make the decisions. Like, you're going to see this, I think, as the cost of business in sports grows and grows and grows, and it wouldn't shock me if you see another owner. Jeannie Buss is probably the best example. Come with, pick a small market owner, pick an owner who's just kind of sick of this shit. To do that, it wouldn't shock me.
It might be the end of the single owner format in the NBA.
Unless you're Matt Ishbia, apparently.
He's not the only owner, though, and he had to finance the purchase. He's not rich enough to buy that team, so his brother and his father are part owners that he came in with as part of his group. There was a buyout option for a lot of the other owners that were part of Sarver's group before. There's some question as to what happens if they try to accelerate the buyout and say, okay, now I'm ready. And does he have the money to do that? There's all these complications that happen because the teams are just so damn expensive now. The amount of individuals who can afford teams in any of the biggest leagues on earth is just very, very small. And then how many of them want to do that and use/waste their money on buying a sports team? Like, we're going to see these groups and these complicated structures, I think, more and more. So that's a very good answer. Mine is the women's Final Four. Both from an intrigue on the court standpoint, where we were introduced to Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark became the biggest thing in sports for a week, and the games had a lot of intrigue, and Kim Mulkey got another title right after jumping to LSU, and all these different things happened, but obviously above and beyond all of that was that the numbers showed us that intrigue was real. And we're going to look at that as an inflection point for women's college basketball, and it gets us toward an answer in my 2024 look ahead a little bit, the WNBA and all of women's sports as the kind of proof being in the pudding for the first time. And it all is going to have started that weekend. And for whatever confluence of events it all ended up being, 10 million people watched that championship game, which is crazy. Crazy for anything. The NBA got 5 million on Christmas. You know what I mean? So, yeah, we're headed towards something special, and obviously Caitlin Clark leading all of that, at least in the near term, and I think we'll really look back at that moment as remember when all this stuff starts to kind of ripple out and change.
Very excited to see what the follow-up is this year. Number one, it's in my city. So, excited to see what the energy is like. And Caitlin Clark's going to have, we'll see if she gets there again, but also just like what she does to the WNBA future is going to be another big thing we see this year, and what the business of the WNBA, I think, gets to. We're going to get to 2024 next. But first, got to tell you about our friends at Homage. Homage is the ultra-comfortable specialty apparel company with NBA and WNBA licenses. They use vintage-inspired design to pay homage to the greatest stories, traditions, and figures across sports, music, and pop culture. Use the link below to make your purchase and support the Just Basketball Show. Got to tell you, I got some people some homage gifts in my life this holiday season. They love them. And if the Browns clinch the playoffs, we're doing this the night before that game. They play the Jets on Thursday Night Football. If they clinch, they usually drop an item of the game. Might be time for me to buy myself something new from Homage to celebrate that Browns playoff entry. So check out our link below. Support the Just Basketball Show. All right, let's look ahead at 2024. We're gonna finish making a prediction for both the men's side of the game and the women's side of the game. We're gonna start by looking at basketball trends to watch. Let's just go one each. Brendon, for me, I wanna know what the center position looks like in a year. I think we're in a state of continuing evolvement of that position, where it really both matters and teams don't want to spend a lot of money on it. You're seeing centers do really amazing things at the highest level, but also in the middle class. I mean, Cleveland right now, for instance, is having this run without Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen's playing some of the best basketball we've seen. Mitchell Robinson, before his injury, was an absolute monster on the offensive glass. We're seeing the Wolves have success with two bigs. But centers are coming in leaner. They're not quite as bulky. They're more mobile. Some of them are shooting. Some of them still aren't. So where does the center position end up in a year? Does it continue to kind of be squeezed? Does it have a resurgence of some point? Do more centers kind of get at least the proto contract and at least remain somewhat well compensated for their work? Where the center position goes, to me, remains just such an interesting way to tell a story about where the league goes. And particularly, we're going to get to we'll see what the finals look like this year. you could have very varying looks of what teams do at the center spot. Like if we get like Boston, Denver, it's two very different decisions about how those teams have decided to use centers and what the function of centers are on those respective teams. Same thing if Philly, continues this run and Embiid gets there. What would it mean for the second year in a row? Maybe let's say Philly wins it and the universe doesn't implode afterwards as a result of not being able to handle that. Embiid wins the finals. That's 2 years in a row an MVP level center has led teams to win a championship. That will tell us something. It'll teach teams something. It'll dictate decisions, I think, to some degree. So I am all eyes on the big men right now.
Yeah, my answer was for the change we saw in 2023 was the return of big ball on the court. So pretty much covered by your answer there. I thought what you said was pretty much where my head was at, and it starts with the center position, but even just in the evolution of how we've seen teams try to guard Jokic, the ripple effect out from there is you kind of need to have size everywhere to execute a lot of what you're going to need to defend these spaced out, grab and go offenses that we're seeing everywhere. The Lakers against Halliburton, there's numerous examples. My trend to watch in 2024, though, is the media rights deals, which we don't have to spend a ton of time because, again, we're going to be talking about it in 2024, I think, quite a bit. But I think the way we interact with the NBA is just going to change a lot, and it won't happen until 2025. But the exclusive negotiating window that ESPN and TNT or Warner Bros. Discovery has right now is going to expire soon. People seem to expect that we're going to hear the final details of what this new rights package is going to look like in the first few months of 2024. And NBA TV might not exist. The NBA League Pass product might be absorbed by a different company. The place we go to tune in might go behind a paywall if it's a streaming service. A lot of things are going to evolve about the way that basketball fans interact with the league, and I think there's a real opportunity for that to be a better world for basketball fans if they get it right, if they are creative, if they expand their kind of concept of what it might mean to watch or consume NBA content. People talk about ratings a ton about the NBA, more than other leagues for various reasons. I think some of it can be disingenuous, but the reality is they have some work to do. And so I think that's as much on them as it is the players playing in games and all these other sorts of things. I think getting creative is important here, and hopefully they can do that with these new deals, and that it might look different, but it could end up being better. But I think that'll dominate a lot of what we talk about in the first half of next year for sure.
I mean, the Bally thing in itself is could be its own thing. What's going to happen with those teams? Does Amazon get involved with Diamond Sports? That in itself is going to shape a lot, and how fans react to that will be.
Yeah, for local fans, it's already changed, right? Some cities, it's already changed how you consume sports.
So how has that gone over in Phoenix so far?
Well, Phoenix had a better system, I would say, that the most common way of watching games, and it's like this in a few other places, including Salt Lake City, is direct over the air. So you literally just have to have old-fashioned bunny ears, put them up in your house, and you'll get the channel and turn it on, and it's free. If you live out of market, you have to pay, but you probably were having to pay for something, League Pass or whatever, prior to that, so that probably hasn't changed. I think the thing that sucks right now in the middle is people who have to pay for League Pass and this thing if they live out of market. If they want to watch other games and their team, suddenly that's two costs. These services that they're developing, the streaming services for local teams, are not cheap, and that kind of sucks. But I think long term, if you live in a city you want to watch your team, it's probably going to be easier and cheaper. It just, what does that mean for the team? Because that money doesn't just get replaced. That's now revenue that's gone. So it's an economic story too, even if you and I might not be the most qualified to talk about that. I just think as fans, we're in for a pretty major shift here for the next several years, but I think we'll get some clarity on it with these rights deals early on in 2024.
Couldn't agree more. All right, let's go to teams with the most at stake. Brendon, I'm going with the Golden State Warriors. This feels like perhaps the end of a dynasty, the end of a run. Howard Beck reasoned really well about this, The Ringer. Steph Curry still playing for the most part pretty amazingly, and yet like it might just be all for naught. And I don't know what the pivot is. I don't know what's coming here. Is Steve Kerr even going to be around? I think it's them, just considering they have a historical player, and their footing feels so they don't feel like on solid ground and solid footing right now. To me, that's the team with the most at stake in terms of just maximizing what is left of this era, whatever that is.
I mean, by the end of this upcoming calendar year of 2024, Klay Thompson and Draymond Green might be gone, right? So, I mean, that's pretty disruptive to a mainstay in NBA fans' minds. I would say that's a great answer. I had the Phoenix Suns as one option. I don't feel super strongly that that's actually true. I think they're kind of trapped where they are, but they're in the news right now for similar reasons. The Indiana Fever were something I considered just because they are getting Caitlin Clark. Can they maximize that? Can they be a stable, successful franchise that welcomes her in? We actually, shout out to our YouTube commenters. I saw somebody who commented on our pullout video about the Fever winning the lottery, who referenced that Caitlin's boyfriend, who went to Iowa, played basketball, I think has now graduated, works in the larger Pacers Fever Mad Ants organization. So, yeah, Brian Windhorst's finger point there.
Actually,
maybe more likely
was that
just comes over.
Was that 2022 that he did that? Was that 2022?
That was 2022.
Okay, because if so, that's still that's still one of the funniest things. The whole clip, not even just the meme, the whole clip of that is just
the whole rant is epic television. Okay. But my real answer is G League Ignite, and we don't have to spend a ton of time because I don't pretend to be an expert here, but I do have a soft spot. I have talked before about the connection that I have there. We don't need to get into that, but I just care about the success of them because I think the idea is smart. The idea is potentially really impactful, but aside from Scoot, and even then, you were 25 games in and he was injured for part of that, they don't have a lot to point to. They're very bad this year in the G League. They have two potential number one overall pick candidates who are kind of falling because they're not showing as much as expected. They're overstocked with prospects without a lot of structure this year. I believe I watched 2 of their games and felt that way, but people who know much more have said that. But even Jonathan Kuminga, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Green, there's not a lot of guys, you would say, Jaden Hardy, who came into the NBA and just hit right away, and you can feel like are a real success story. And the NBA's put a lot of money into this. The NBA runs this organization, not the G League, not any other team. And, you know, there's a lot of resources and the Vegas property that they have and renting an arena out and all this different stuff. And it's not going great. So how those guys fare come draft season and who commits to them for next year, I think we're kind of at a moment of tension for something that I think a lot of people were really hyped about when it got introduced a few years back.
I'm curious to see like who they can bring in as far as like talent to maybe like if they can get another high level draft pick, if they can deter someone, like if there's, you know, I don't always look so far ahead in these draft rankings, but like whoever like the number one guy is in the class after Cooper Flag, could they sneak that guy?
I mean, getting
in, you know?
talent hasn't been their problem because they have Buzelis and Holland this year, who were both guys at various points who people thought were going to be the number one overall pick. It's more about developing them, being a competitive team, and actually advertising that this is a real structure that can work. Because right now it sort of feels like college basketball, as far as development goes, is probably still your best bet, even if it brings with it a bunch of bullshit.
The G League in general, I think the G League in general too feels like it's like looking for whatever, like looking for an identity as a league, to me a little bit. That's just how I tend to look at it. We should do an episode on the G League, and we should find someone who, like maybe Rafael Barlow comes to mind as someone who really watches a lot of this and talks about it, thinks about it. I think this is now an episode we need to do. So I'm glad you said this.
Player with the most at stake?
So, I have 2 answers to this. Steph Curry is one of them.
Okay.
Don't really need to rehash what I said. Other one is Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is essentially in the prime of his career. Very well might be trying to get out of a second team. But how many teams are going to be clamoring to trade for him? Does the star market go to a weird spot? What is the market for him? And is he going to kind of reestablish himself to some degrees among like the best 15 offensive players in the league, kind of get on that rep again? Because it feels like his reputation coming off that Knicks series has slipped. I don't know exactly where he fits in the hierarchy of stars in a lot of ways right now. I think it's a weird spot for him. And it's kind of at that age where it's time to not quite put up or shut up, but put up and do something with where you're at. This is a 27-year-old who will be 28 that started next year. It's kind of like, let's rev it up, Donovan. I think, and where he goes, how he is perceived, if he does ask out, all that stuff. I think there's just a lot on the line for Mitchell at this phase of his career. The other answer I consider, Brendon, is Kevin Durant, just because he's running out of time to get another ring, and the Sun situation is a little tricky and all that stuff. So I thought about him too, but the answer I feel best about is probably Curry, just because he's the all-time great right now with the least clear path to winning another title again. That just feels very hard to imagine right now. But Mitchell is, I think, kind of the one, obviously, considering I'm here and I think about the team a lot, that I'm most fascinated by the different machinations it could go out. And also, am I just too much in the bubble on him in picking him as an answer?
I mean, I don't think you're too much in the bubble. My answer is Joel Embiid.
This is probably actually the only answer because he just needs to win a title, probably.
Yeah, I mean, sure, there's that, but even if it's not this year, everything's wide open for him. Finally, right? It's all him, for better and worse, and there's a pathway to kind of building out the roster in a way that suits him better and that he may have a say over for the first time in it ever. The East is, I don't want to say wide open because I do think Boston is better than Philadelphia right now, but with the deadline coming up and probably the most cohesive team that Embiid has ever been on, can they upset Boston or Milwaukee? Can they at least get to a conference finals? I mean, if the bracket breaks a certain way, can they get to the conference finals without having to beat Boston or Milwaukee and at least get over that hump? And beyond that, obviously a title would be nice. Free agency where they can add more talent. I just think 2024, and then if things don't go well, of course, we'll be right back to, will they trade him? And he would be, I don't think it's going to happen in 2024 for the reasons I just said, but even if they decided to trade him at age 31, you're talking about one of the best players to ever be traded above Durant because of the age and everything else. So, and then the other one I had is a little bit of a toss-in because I'm not as familiar, and we're very early on in the connection point we as basketball fans might have to this person. But I had Juju Watkins just because I think that she is on a path toward something that could rival what Caitlin Clark or Asia Wilson or Brianna Stewart before her kind of had. I mean, this is somebody whose name we already know and who is already doing pretty historic things as a freshman, and the rules are not going to be changing anytime soon, and so we will now get 3 potentially more years with her. I believe it has to be 3 because she's only 18 now. She's not going to turn 22 her junior year. So, yeah, we're getting a full college career from this girl who is already very famous and very good. So that could just rise. What does she do in the tournament? What does year 2 look like for her? All those sorts of things. I think she's one to watch. Might be a little too early, and obviously Embiid's career is already in full swing, but I wanted to throw her in there.
I think that's a great shot. And I think there's a lot of players in. I mean, you could look at Brianna Stewart. It's okay, where's your career at right now? Where's Sabrina Ionescu's career at on the women's side? There's a lot of people you could go out
Stewie, but she's just won so much already. It's kind of
yeah.
So that's what I was thinking when you said Curry. Is I'm like, there is a lot that could change, but kind of whatever. His legacy is sealed,
Yeah, it's just I don't want to the thing that makes me sad about the Kerr thing is just, does he end up in a spot where it's what is he actually playing for when he's still capable of playing for something really meaningful? That's the part that that no man's land of NBA stardom late in your career could be staring Curry in the face, and it's not even his fault, and that bums me out.
Yeah, for sure.
All
What's
right,
your prediction on the men's side?
Prediction on the men's side. I'm just going to be frisky, and I'm going to make a Sixers prediction. I think the Sixers, and I'm going to stick to this, and I'm just feeling chaos in the universe in the year 2024, Brendon. I'm just going to say the Sixers make the finals. I don't know why. I don't know if I really believe it. I'm just going to say, like, I think they can do it, and I think Embiid's capable. I think Maxey is fully capable. They just won without Embiid. They should hang a banner for that. If they're going to, they should just hang NBA Cup banners too, by the way. But this feels like that team is evolved in a really important way, and I think there's a run coming from that team this year. I'm feeling very, very good about Philly. A little bullish, a little optimistic considering how good Boston is, but I've worked myself into a shoot in saying that I think Philly's making the finals.
All right. Mine is Team USA wins the gold. We haven't talked about the Olympics. That's coming up in 2024.
Okay, you know what? Now that you say that, I'm actually a little surprised you didn't just like shit on Jaren Jackson for 5 minutes when we were talking about biggest disappointment. If you were just like Jaren Jackson playing like garbage in the World Cup.
Yeah, not unpredictable, But look, I think Team USA winning the gold it's kind of a bold prediction because they're going to have some stiff competition. They obviously did not win the World Cup, as you just mentioned. Australia, Spain, Canada, Germany, all these teams are probably in a vacuum, higher ranked than them, better than them right now. But we know from what we've heard, you're talking about LeBron, Embiid, Durant, and Booker as a starting point, likely Tatum. I mean, that might be, depending on how you rank things, 5 of the 10 best players in the league, all on this roster next year. So they should win this. But I do think, given their recent scuttling and even pretty weird showing in the previous Olympics because of COVID, like, I want to see them just dominate. And I think they're judging from... And Curry. I didn't mention Curry's supposed to be on the team, too. They seem to want it too, and so I'm really looking forward to Paris this year.
I like that. Very excited for the Olympics as well. All right, my women's prediction. There's a player at the University of Connecticut that I think has had a rough run of it at times and has had her star overshadowed, I think understandably, by Caitlin Clark. I'm just going to say 2024 is the year that we are reminded how good Paige Beckers is and that she also is a franchise-level WNBA talent, and that whoever gets her in the draft is going to be very, very happy to have her. And that there's obviously Caitlin Clark's the headliner. She's going to go 1, all that stuff. But Paige Beckers is not a consolation prize. She is also someone you can do some amazing things with as an organization. So I'm going to say 2024 is the year of Paige Beckers kind of reasserting herself on the scene in a major way.
If we get to see her with the Sparks, that'll be very cool. That organization needs some help. So hopefully she can provide it to them. My prediction is that the WNBA expands to Philadelphia.
I like this. I like this a lot. I thought about picking a city for my second prediction, Brendon, and I couldn't think of I wanted to either be really spicy or have something grounded in reality, and I just didn't feel like I had a satisfactory answer. So why did you settle on Philly?
I poked back around at what the rumors were. Obviously, the Portland thing fell through.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that made a ton of sense in the first place. It would have made sense if they had an ownership group that cared. I mean, that's the number one thing. But it's like 2 teams that are like on a map. You can't even fit a finger between them. That felt a little bit weird. The proximity between Portland and San Francisco. So I was thinking, okay, let's go to the East Coast. We know Toronto just really loves concerts, so they didn't want to put any women's basketball games in their arena because they wanted to get whatever B-list band is touring these days in there. Good for them. And then Boston has come up a lot, but again, proximity. Boston's very close to the Connecticut Sun. Their games are literally on Nesson. Like, that just feels a little odd. I think the Sun probably would not be too pleased about another team in a bigger city right in their region. So it's like, okay, New York has a team, DC has a team. I double-checked Philadelphia. There have been some rumblings. I think that's one of the places that Kathy Engelbert visited. Don Staley has made the case for it as a Philadelphia prodigy. And then even the Sixers ownership has been on the record saying that they would be interested in supporting it. So there are no rumors or reports about what's going on with that stuff right now. I think that the Portland thing was a real hit to them, but turn the page, look on the other coast. Philadelphia seems perfect. Big city, big fan base. Sixers are popular. They'd fit right in.
Could you see a world where Dawn Staley makes the leap to coach in her hometown?
I don't think she wants to coach anywhere but South Carolina, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
I think she's a Coach K, Gino. She makes a shit ton of money. She has all the opportunities she wants. They win a lot. It's like, also she'd be making less money coaching the WNBA, probably.
Yeah.
So,
I like that prediction though. I think it's let's just lock it down. Give me a team in 2024 in Philly. That would be good. Built in a rivalry with New York. Makes a lot of sense.
There it is.
Anything we didn't get to? Any final just random things that are on that you want to just shout out here before we wrap up our last episode of the year, Brendon?
We got through a lot without talking about the Wizards, and Michael Leonsis seems like a pretty bad owner. But, he's speaking of the WNBA and rivalries, DC would be a perfect opportunity, but they seem to be somehow left out of this very unpopular move to Virginia. Doesn't seem like they're going to play in that arena. I'm not sure where they will play. He doesn't seem to care where they will play, and he's also, run his NBA team into the ground and trying to start a media company because that's what he really wants to be doing. I'm not sure. He bothers me a lot, but, we don't need to end on a sour note.
Which organization do you feel like has a better chance of turning it around within 2 years, the Wizards or the Pistons? Is it the Pistons just because of Cade?
I also called him Michael. His name's Ted, so that shows you how little I respect him. I just kind of made up a first name for him.
Sure,
Probably the Wizards have a longer track record, I think, of being terrible. There's at least a time where Detroit embraced the Pistons, and there's some sort of map for what
so it's funny you
success
say
could look
that,
like
though.
there. It's just been this guy ruining it, but
It's funny you say that though, because I have a friend from college, and his wife are from Detroit, and they have partial season ticket plans. And one of the things that's been grating at them lately is all the Bad Boys era marketing they're using to try and get people excited about the team. So
what else are they supposed to do?
I don't know. I think they're just I think people just want some realism sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair, but the Wizards don't have anybody to put on throwback marketing materials, I guess isn't the point I'm
Michael
making.
Jordan.
Really.
Michael Jordan. Now that he's no longer an owner.
Yeah.
There we go. I'll end
the
here.
Bulls
I'll
are
say
already doing
Pop.
that. They're doing a Ring of Honor, so the Bulls already cornered that market. It's too late. There's only so many terrible franchises that can just co-opt
the Bulls.
Michael Jordan's NIL for the night.
The Bulls sneakily winning a bunch of games lately has been very funny, by the way. They were 8 of 11 or something like that, and I was just how?
Buyers. Trade deadline buyers, baby. That's your Chicago Bulls.
We didn't do this on Slop, but they did apparently try to broach a call with the Cavs about Levine for Darius Garland, which is just very funny.
Yeah.
It's shoot your shot.
Rough look.
I'll end on one last thing. Person with most at stake that isn't a player or a team. You put this in my head the other day. Now I can't stop thinking about it. Is it Tibbs? And what is because if Tibbs is the fall guy, if the Knicks don't advance in some way, and if they don't make a trade, where does he even go after this job?
Coaches get fired all the time. He's a pretty old guy. I think he'll be all right. That's not.
Yeah, but that guy's
in the grand scheme of the NBA. It's whatever. Tom Thibodeau getting
yeah,
fired.
But everything we know about that guy is that this is the only thing he cares about in life. So
he'd get an assistant job in a heartbeat if he wants it. He's been a head coach 3 times. You know how many people would kill for that? He's all right. He's in his mid-60s.
Tom, if you want to be the third co-host on the Just Basketball Show, we're available. Can you bark into a microphone? That's right. That's what they say about us. Golden parachute. Doc Rivers actually turned us down, is what many people are saying. All right, we're going to end there. I'm Chris Manning. That's Brendon Kleen. Happy 2023 to everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening this year. Leave us your predictions for whatever categories you want in the comments here on YouTube, or tweet us, or hit us on any social media platform. Have a great end of your year. Enjoy the hoops, and we'll talk to you in 2024.